Well, let's go live to Canberra. Joining us now in our Parliament House studios, independent MP Rob Oakeshott. Thanks for being there.
Pleasure.
You've heard Tony Abbott's emphatic rejection of this bill. Do you have any reason at all to believe it might pass in the Senate?
Well, we're just going to see tomorrow, and I certainly use tonight's program to urge all senators and anyone who knows a senator to do their job, not to be obstructionist, but to be a house of review, and by all means negotiate, by all means amend, but do not block. I think what people are seeing unfold on their televisions, the images north of Christmas Island, and what has unfolded over the last decade of failure in this policy area needs to be addressed. And so I really urge the Senate tomorrow to rise above and to find the national interest outside and over those traditional, entrenched political party lines.
But if you couldn't convince Judy Moylan or any of the Liberal moderates in the House to support your bill, what makes you think that anybody in the Senate will reject, from the coalition side, will reject Tony Abbott's lead on this?
Tony, the House of Representatives today, the People's House, expressed its will in a majority. I would urge tomorrow the Senate to respect that and to do its job, by all means review, by all means, as I say, amend, negotiate across party lines, but do not block. And if that is what this arrangement between the Liberal National Party and the Greens ends up being, I think the Australian people will have a very strong opinion on that.
Do you accept, though, that despite all the passionate argument, the tears, the extraordinary speeches, some of them were truly extraordinary speeches, that if it's rejected in the Senate, this will be nothing more than sound and fury, signifying nothing?
Well, I've seen it on a couple of other programs since the vote, that there seems to be this analysis that this is going to die and that's the end of the debate tomorrow. It is now in the system. The People's House has spoken. If the Senate rejects it, it comes back and we have another go. And it's in that context, we're 2 days away now from a 6-week break of this Parliament. And at the start of this week, I made the call, and I've heard it from other MPs now across party lines, that we should stay here and sort this out until it's resolved. So it doesn't die tomorrow if 8 MPs of any political colour don't do their job, review the legislation, and ultimately, I would hope, support something being done about the images on our television. It will come back to the House, and it's in that context we've got some procedural issues as to whether we continue to sit as a House of Representatives to send another message to the Senate that the Australian people and the People's House has expressed its view and wants this issue dealt with.
OK, but if it comes back to the House, are you prepared to reconsider Tony Abbott and the coalition's alternative compromise?
At the heart of the bill, I'm also seeing lots of debate around Malaysia and Nauru, and that is where we've got stuck in the mud. The heart of the bill that's just been approved is a framework. It steps back from that. It is a framework that Alexander Downer started in 2002. It has developed some key principles over the last decade. One of those, with the UNHCR, with the International Office of Migration, with the Red Cross, is to encourage bilateral agreements between nations in the Asia-Pacific, fundamentally to slow the movement of people and to try and break criminal networks in smuggling, trafficking and cross-border crime. That is at the heart of this bill. What the coalition put up was to say you can only do agreements with UN Refugee Convention signatory countries. Australia is a signatory, so we cannot do anything with any country that is outside our obligations. You only need one signatory. Secondly, I would urge everyone to look at how many Asia-Pacific nations are signatories to the UN Refugee Convention. There ain't many. And this is an Asia-Pacific issue that we've got to deal with. And the Bali process of all the international arrangements started by Alexander Downer is the one that focuses on how we slow the movement of people. The third point that is problematic is if you line up those nations of the world that are signatories to the UN Convention and you say to yourself, right, is that a higher or lower human rights standard because they are signatories? It fails that test. It is not a straight equation. There are plenty of signatories who have low human rights standards. There's plenty of non-signatories who have high human rights standards.
Okay, I know, I take
so
your
it
point,
is a
but-
straw argument. Well, it is a straw argument
okay, you can finish
that
the
is
sentence, sorry.
allowing an impasse to occur, in my view.
Okay, of the many speeches today, as I said, many of them were passionate. One that lingers in the mind was Joe Hockey's angry denunciation of legislation which he claims could see 13-year-old children sent unaccompanied to an uncertain fate to Malaysia. Now, if he's right, if that is true, does that put a moral question over your own bill?
Oh, there is morality questions around every option, and I understand Joe's concerns, but he should know. Well, see, and I value his statements, but people are getting pulled out of the water dead right now because of inaction, and so whilst Joe made some comments about over his dead body, I would hope he also recognises there have been a lot of lost lives of equal value right now because of policy failure. I would also ask Joe to reflect on any toe-back strategy or anything he does support, which also involves 12-year-olds and 13-year-olds. So there is a moral question around that position. But if Joe wants to put something to the Parliament to try and resolve this impasse, I am open to that. And the frustration has been that this, the principled positions have all only emerged in the last 5 hours when, these are things that could have been put to the Parliament over the last 18 months. This issue's been around for a while, and I would hope now there's not so-called principled positions being put up simply to create an impasse so that we don't resolve the issue. I hope that is not at the heart of the position we're seeing.
Rob Oakeshott, we'll have to leave you there. We thank you very much for coming in to join us.
Okay, thanks, Tony.